Here we go. All right, Dr. Isabel, thank you so much for taking this time and meeting with me. I know how busy you are, so thank you so much. Why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hello, Maria. Thanks for inviting me to this. I'm really excited about working with you and just learning and just helping your tribe in any way that I can. So who am I? Well, I'm just this crazy medical doctor for the last 26 years who, you know, I know how to do conventional medicine. I've done conventional medicine now for the last 26 years. However, I'm so tired of seeing people get sicker and fatter and then just go to the doctor, get more pills. And you know I've been taught, you know, because you've got to remember my parents in medical school is big pharma. And so I know how to keep people well with their unwellness by giving them more pills.
I know what you're talking about, yeah. Okay.
And the side effect profile is terrible. So for the last 15 years, what I've done is I've really been studying nutrition, mindsets, lifestyle, spirituality, exercise. And so 3 years ago, I gave away private practice and I started Doctor on a Mission. And my whole goal is to help people live a long, healthy, vibrant life without being sicker and fatter so that we can live to be 100 years. Great, if you want to live to be 100. But we're all going to live to be older. But why live older and sicker and yuckier? Why not live older and better and vibrant and awake and alive for our kids, if we've got kids, or for the world, so that we can keep on serving?
Yes.
So that's what I'm doing for the rest of my life.
You have a tall task there, but that's yeah. But good. Okay, so let's get right into insulin. Can you tell us what is insulin and what purpose does it serve in the body?
Insulin is a hormone that your body creates that helps take sugar from the blood and puts it into the cell. And the easiest way I can explain it is, imagine a hose when you're at the petrol station or the gasoline station here in New Zealand. I'm here in New Zealand, so in New Zealand we say petrol. So if I say petrol or crazy things, it's because
okay.
But that's okay. You say what? And I'll go, oh yeah, I mean gasoline.
I gotcha.
So pretend you go to the gasoline station and you pay to get some gasoline into your tank. Well, imagine your tank as a cell, one of the billions of cells in your body. And that cell can't work unless it's got gasoline in it. Well, the gasoline is sugar that's going into your tank. Well, that hose goes in because insulin goes, knock, 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 let me in, I've got some food for you. So insulin puts sugar into your cells so that you've got energy to rock and roll.
Okay, so now insulin is, correct me if I'm wrong, is insulin bad, good, neutral, or just something that needs to be in the correct balance in the body?
Yes, we need it. Okay. We must have insulin. Insulin is good.
Okay. All right.
However, we don't want it spiking.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what causes insulin to spike?
Great question. Sugar. Sugar, high spikes in sugar will make insulin go up and grab that sugar and put it into the cell. So that's the big thing, is we've got a problem with insulin spikes, because when insulin spikes, then it's got to grab that sugar and put it into the cell. Now, if the cell goes, I've got enough sugar, I don't need any more sugar, don't feed me any more sugar, then it'll take that insulin and it'll use that sugar and store it as belly fat. And that's the problem that we have right now, is people are eating too much sugar and the body's going, I don't need this much, we need to store it for later use.
So in that way, insulin becomes like a fat storage hormone.
Totally. Belly fat, yeah.
Just, okay, belly fat.
Just belly fat, earlobe fat, veranda fat, that you see women when they're wearing bras, they've got verandas hanging off the edge.
I've never heard it referred to that. That's funny. Okay.
Yeah. Hip fat, knee fat, ankle fat, you know, wherever fat can be stored.
Sure. Now, I have heard this said before, and it sounded somewhat discouraging to me, but tell me if this is correct. Do we run the risk of becoming more resistant to insulin resistant as we age?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Why?
And specifically for women, it's because our metabolism goes down.
Okay.
And we eat more. I mean, our metabolism goes down, and the food that we're eating is not right, so we gain more fat.
And Isabel, do we actually need less food as we age? I know that wasn't on our little list, but I wonder.
I'm not a calorie counter. I'm more into nutrition because I believe that your body will tell you, right, I don't need more food. Personally, from what I understand from the research, is people that are obese are actually starving.
Yeah, malnourished.
Yeah, they're malnourished. They don't have enough nutrition in them.
Okay.
So that's why when we get into menopause, I don't know if you've already gone through it yet.
Yeah.
You have?
Yeah.
Oh, me too. I'm like flying. I'm swimming through it right now. But when you go through menopause, the weight can just come on, and you can become fat and frumpy, and just really lose your self-esteem. And
yeah, so let's actually speak about that, because I spoke with another expert who seemed to think that some weight in menopause might be an adaptive mechanism to compensate for, the ovaries are really not producing much estrogen anymore, and that estrogen is needed for, to maintain some bone health. And, so perhaps the little bit of extra fat becomes an estrogen, the mechanism, the adaptation for ovaries kind of going into retirement mode. So, I mean, so how much? I've always said, not more than 10 pounds, but I really would like to know your take on that.
I think 10 pounds should be enough.
Yeah.
And if you're here and down under, it's, people that don't use 10 pounds, that's about 4.5 kgs.
Okay.
Yeah. But the problem is we just keep on, people drink a lot more alcohol the older they get. It's 5 o'clock, it's wine o'clock, and it's wine o'clock somewhere in the world, and it's time to drink, and that's just sugar, and then it slows down your metabolism. And
yes.
I mean, we see it. You and I see it all around us.
Oh, yes, very much so. And, the interesting thing I have realized with women is so now now we're in our 40s and 50s and maybe, even early 60s, right? So now we have maybe the money, the time, and the inclination to be social, to do things, to have whatever book club or, just dinners out with our friends. And a lot of these things revolve around rich food and wine, not necessarily let's get together in the park and take a walk. So
no,
right?
No, or let's go do the El Camino for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Have you done that? Have you done that trip yet?
No, I haven't. No.
That would be a relationship builder. Is
that walk through Spain?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Portugal and France.
Yeah, that looks great. So
where you walk for 8 hours. You walk for 8 hours, and then at the end at night you have your bread and your cheese and your pasta and your red wine. But you've walked for 8 hours, and you've talked with your friends.
So is the problem that we become less active as we age, and we either eat the same, or maybe we eat, we just don't eat as good foods as possible? We're still eating the bread, cheese, and wine, but we're really not leading an active life to compensate for things like that.
Yes.
Okay.
However, we also need to know that your belly is actually created, 80% of your belly is created in the kitchen, and the other 20% is created exercising. So people think that they can eat junk and then go work out. And I'm like, no.
Yes, I have seen that. Yeah, that is true. Okay. So it's
Yeah.
80% what you eat and 20% exercise.
That's what I stick to. That's the research I stick to.
How can a woman who is struggling with weight gain and belly fat, like what should she do? I hear a lot of women with the belly fat issue going on.
Yeah, well, I've experienced.
And let me just say, I think like some of these women, they are exercising. So
I know. Well, I can only relate to my experience, and that's why I'm so passionate about teaching about this. But when I was 40, I had like an extra 10 pounds. And then I walked into my 50s, and I had 22 pounds. And I'm like, I'm doing everything. And so I've just done the whole search. And the simplest thing that I can come up with that I'm helping people with right now is eat low GI and medium GI foods. Eat a carbohydrate, protein, and fat every time you eat, because that keeps your blood sugar nice and stable. Drink your water. Exercise, but don't stress your body out, because that's going to increase your cortisol, and then that stores belly fat. And change what you're thinking.
mm-hmm.
And believe that you can achieve this. You don't have to look like everybody else.
Sure.
Like being overweight, fat, and frumpy is not the new normal. It doesn't, I know it looks like it, but you're in control.
Yeah.
And then the side effects of all this extra weight is chronic disease, Alzheimer's, and
knee problems,
osteoporosis, high blood pressure.
Yeah. Okay.
The drug companies are really happy to have.
What's that?
The drug companies are really happy to have, because they got a pill for you.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Okay. So insulin resistant. You run more of a risk of becoming insulin resistant as you age, and you just have to become more mindful with all those things that you mentioned.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
So just to wrap that up, you need to make sure, that you're eating clean. Your body cannot tolerate junk food. You need to be exercising, drinking water, sleeping. You know how important sleep is, 7 to 9.5 hours of sleep a night.
Mm-hmm.
Women look at me going, "Are you serious?" And I go, "Yes, I'm serious."
Yeah. All right. Well, you're actually, you're a pretty amazing, sort of like billboard for what you do, because you have beautiful skin and you're in a great shape. So
thank you. That I'm training for 100.
Okay. That's good. Yeah.
Thanks. And can I be totally transparent with you?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm pretty good most of the week, but one day a week, I just like do whatever I want.
Well, as long as you don't, like, I know for some people if they go off like that, you have to know like your guardrail and your triggers, but as long as you don't use that, I tell people it might be a cheat day. Not that I really like the terminology cheat, but it might be a treat. I like treat better.
Yeah, I like treat.
Treat day is not a treat weekend.
No, because you feel it. You're so clean. You're actually hung over from the sugar for days. Yeah. Because you run such a clean body.
Yeah. So, okay. So let's talk about testing. I mean, is there any validity to the fasting glucose test that you get done typically with the CBC?
Well, no. The short answer is no.
Oh, wow.
Because the fasting sugar, the fasting glucose is just a one time.
Right.
It doesn't look at how your body's responding to a sugar load.
Okay.
And most doctors don't do the following test, which is the 2-hour glucose tolerance test.
Oh, okay.
Which, you do a blood test fasting, and then you drink a load of sugar, which is like super sweet, and then you check your glucose at 1 hour and your glucose at 2 hours. Most people don't hang out for the 2 hours to do that. And
that's actually done in the doctor's office. So you have to stay there in the waiting room for 2 hours or whatever.
It might in America. I'm not sure. Here in New Zealand, they just go to the lab and they sit there and they do.
Gotcha. Okay. All right.
A better test is the fasting insulin test.
Oh, okay.
Now that's the gold standard, the fasting insulin test. Because if your blood sugars, I've seen people with normal blood sugars, normal fasting blood sugars, at fasting at 1 hour, at 2 hours, but then when you check their insulin levels, it's high. Well, that makes perfectly good sense. Insulin's doing its job of putting that sugar into the tank. But if your insulin levels are high, that means your body's being stressed and you're creating insulin resistance. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, here in New Zealand, they're not doing the fasting insulin test, which is like, oh boy, we got a lot of work to do.
Yeah. You know what? I see a lot of people my clients bring me their lab tests all the time. I almost never see someone get the fasting insulin test.
Wow.
They just get the regular CBC with differential and the fasting glucose, which basically, like you're saying, it's a reflection of what you ate the night before, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And you've got to also understand, doctors, my colleagues don't know about a fasting insulin.
I don't understand.
We were never, because we were never taught this in medical school. This is pretty new functional medicine, that's just coming out right now. So it's going to take probably a decade for us to start using that. A lot of doctors are using the hemoglobin A1C.
Oh, what do you think of that test?
It's pretty good. I mean, it's the only one I've really got here in New Zealand. The hemoglobin A1C is just a molecule, and it checks how much sugar is on the red blood cell over a 6-week period. And, the higher your hemoglobin A1C, that means the more sugar your red blood cells have, which means the more closer to diabetes or prediabetes you're getting.
Okay.
So I use the hemoglobin A1C here. That's pretty much what I've got here in New Zealand.
And, okay. All right. That's good. Do you have a range for that? Like, what's the functional range, or what's a good range to be in?
For the glucose and the insulin, I do. But remember, here in New Zealand, it's a different for hemoglobin A1C. I can give you the glucose. I'll start with the glucose, and then I'll give you the insulin.
Okay.
So for fasting glucose, it should be less than 90 milligrams per deciliter.
Okay.
And for your insulin, it should be less than 5.
Okay, I'm familiar with that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, 5 international units per deciliter. Right. And then after 1 hour, after you've drank the 75-gram load of sugar, then your glucose should be at about 120. No higher than that. And your insulin level should be less than 30.
Okay.
And then after 2 hours, your glucose should be less than 120, still less than 120. And your insulin level should be less than 30. So anything higher than that, you're walking towards prediabetes. But, like Dr. Mark Hyman says, 90% of Americans aren't being tested for this, and they're missing the prediabetes.
Yeah, that's really like the same issue with the proper thyroid testing. What do you like? It seems to me that medical science advances a lot quicker than medical practice. Is there a reason why? Is it just the wheels of change turn slowly?
Us doctors have to learn a lot of stuff in medical school. And once we feel like we've got something that we feel comfortable with, it's really hard to let go of that.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that honest answer.
And I just, not everybody feels comfortable with change. I don't like change, but it's inevitable.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I don't know if you want to, I think I've covered everything. Well, actually, why don't you tell us what do you think is good in terms of exercise? I'm a big believer in I don't necessarily think that long-standing cardio running I don't know that that's really a good thing.
Good for you.
What can women do instead?
There's 3 things that I teach. 1 is interval training.
Yeah.
2 is resistance training, and 3 is rest. And yes, 3 is very important.
Okay.
So what I recommend is first of all, I just educate people to let them know if you exercise super hard, like we've been taught to do cardio, you're going to increase your cortisol. Well, cortisol will store belly fat too because it stimulates insulin.
Right, yeah.
And then you store belly fat. So I'm not into these long hour and a half. When I teach, I go into the gym, 20 minutes, 5 minutes warm up, 5 minutes cool down, 20 minutes, and you're out of there. Okay. So I teach people how to eat more and exercise less, pretty much.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah, they love it.
Okay.
I love it. I feel better. So anyway, number one is resistance. Resistance is build your muscles. So get a program where you're building your muscle because, the more muscle you have, not bulky muscle, but toned muscle. Yeah. The more muscle you have, the toner you are, the younger your body is.
Yeah. Okay.
Physiologically. And you feel better. You look better.
Yeah.
I mean, how many old people do we see that just look like they have no muscle tone and it's not good. So I recommend 20 minutes of resistance 2 to 3 times a week. Just get a program from your gym instructor or go online. And then for interval training, again, 20 minutes 2 or 3 times a week. So interval training is just real simple. You do something really fast, and then you rest. And then you do something really fast, and then you rest. Okay. And then there's lots of different combinations for that.
Okay.
And that's the replacement for cardio.
Right. Okay.
Do you
20
minutes do this also?
What was that?
Is this something you do also?
I like the short bursts of exercise. I like resistance training. I mean, I'm newly in menopause for about a year, so my concern is my bone health. So I like the resistance training.
Good.
To help with that, yeah.
Good.
I also like to occasionally, when I'm feeling well rested enough, I like to do a little bit of jump rope. I think getting like a little bit of jarring, something a little jarring, not running. I'm not a fan of running, but jarring is going to be good for to stimulate those osteoblasts. So.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's right. Osteoblasts to become strong, powerful muscle cells. Yeah, I mean bone cells. Yeah, that's right.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I think we are good. So, unless you have anything else to add in terms of weight, insulin resistance.
I think one of the big things I'd like to kind of emphasize, because this is pretty much my mission for the next 5 years, is I've declared war on obesity and type 2 diabetes to help people turn it around and stuff, is to understand that you don't just get diabetes like that.
Yeah.
It's a journey.
Yeah.
And like I said, Dr. Mark Hyman says it really well in his book called The Blood Sugar Solution. And he just talks that, it's like a 20, 30-year life before you hit type 2 diabetes. Nobody just gets type 2 diabetes. You're walking towards that. So if you're starting to, have a bigger waist, if your triglycerides are going up, if you're getting tired, your sex life is going down, you need to start realizing there's ways that you can prevent this, because I know I don't need to tell you this or your tribe, but
no, we all need to hear it. Yeah.
But people don't want to end up with chronic disease. They don't want to have type 2 diabetes and end up with blindness and heart attacks and losing their limbs. I mean, that's why I've started what I've started, because I've taken care of all these people on dialysis, and they go, if only I knew.
Oh, that's it. Wow.
And it's like, well, people now can know. The hard part is they need to make a decision. Which road am I going to go? This way or that way?
Right.
Because in medical school, I was taught that once you have type 2 diabetes, you have it for life.
That I've been meaning to ask you. So if you are pre-diabetic, how reversible is that? Really?
You're in control. I've worked with people who have gotten pre-diabetes and they turn it around. I just teach them how to do that. And
So,
I've also read people, I've also seen, I've never had a patient like this, but I do the research. People on insulin for 3, 4, 5 years can come off their insulin if they've got type 2 diabetes.
right.
Because
Wow.
type 2 is different.
Totally different, right? Yeah. Okay. Wow, that's amazing. Now, is that like a tapering off of insulin with the change in diet and lifestyle?
That's working with a doctor.
Yeah.
And that's what I do. Like, I'm a coach out in outer space, and I help people work with their doctor on ground, because I never want people to think I'm their doctor.
Right.
I'm a doctor in outer space, and I help people work with their doctor to come off the pills. And
Okay, so what you mean is that you work with people like coach them via the web and
Yeah.
Okay, that's great.
Because I can't be everywhere, but I can be like here.
Right. But you can kind of interpret their tests and okay, all right, that's good. And I mean, like, how often is like testing? Just like a good workup in terms of looking at your levels, your blood sugar, your insulin, your HB, like, is yearly enough?
I would say 3 to start off with, 3 to 4 times a year.
Oh, wow.
For
Okay.
your hemoglobin A1C, which is what they are pretty much doing in America, right?
Yeah. And just your regular fasting glucose is extremely common. It's part of the CBC.
Right. But I'm not really into the fasting glucose because it doesn't really tell you anything.
Right.
It's kind of like, it doesn't tell you anything.
Yeah, I think it's like it just reflects what you had maybe the night before or something.
Yeah, it's just one time. It's like a snapshot.
Right.
Whereas your hemoglobin A1C is 6 weeks.
Yeah.
It's very transparent.
I do see that test for sure. I just very rarely see the insulin test, which is interesting. Okay. So, all right. So, wow, 3 to 4 times a year.
To start off with, but once you're under control, once a year.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. Okay. Some people just take, some people need more time.
Yeah, and there is something motivating about seeing a test result and to be able to compare them. Actually, Isabel, I'll tell you something interesting. I cannot tell you how many of my clients that I coach that I say, I let them know I'm not a doctor. I can look at your test. I don't diagnose anyone. So, and I tell them, well, okay, I can look at your tests. Sometimes it's just to tell them, like, okay, well, you should get this, and that test. Why don't have my tests? Or my doctor told me they were fine. Well, you need to have your tests because, number one, you need to be looking at them in succession, whether it's yearly or a few times a year. Like, you need to
You're responsible for these tests.
And you need to see if your numbers, are they going up, down? How are you going to tell if you don't have your test? So that's one thing I tell most of my people is make sure you have your tests, have them in a folder on your computer or a hard copy, and just look at those numbers, see if they're changing.
Yeah.
Empower
people that they've got the power to understand this stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's their body.
Right.
Like my philosophy is, you're the doctor. I'm just your second opinion. You're the doctor of you, Maria. I'm just your second opinion, and it's your responsibility to ask me, okay, well, am I on the right track? And then I can kind of go, yeah. Or I'd go more this way. It's just constant course correction. Everybody, yeah.
I'm laughing.
So cool. I love it.
You're too humble. You're the second opinion with a little bit more education.
Yeah.
But that's good. All right. That is awesome. Okay, so why don't we end with this? Tell us, give us a Dr. Isabel, a Dr. Izzy breakfast. What's like a good healthy breakfast that you would eat?
Oh, okay. Well, usually I do. Okay, so I'm a shake person because I don't have time in the morning because I'm rushing in the morning for some reason.
Okay.
So I'll get a blender with coconut milk. Love coconut milk, but some people don't like coconut milk. So almond milk, make sure it doesn't have sugar, but a good fat.
Okay.
And I'm staying away more from dairy.
Yeah.
Because I've just read a lot. I mean, I'm not a vegetarian, but
Yeah, same here. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Dairy, boy, animal protein is really not that good for our bodies.
I think the quality of the animal protein is important, but the thing is that dairy, I think because the fat in dairy, because toxins are accumulated in the fat, that's what concerns me. Yeah. And I think dairy is potentially, it's like a hormonally active food. I think as with everything, it really comes down to, how do you feel when you do the food? Does it make you tired? Are you a healthy weight? How's your mood?
Right.
How's your libido? I mean, all these things kind of relate back in.
Right. Because your body will tell you how it feels.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, okay. So coconut milk, and then I put some cinnamon because cinnamon's really good to keep your blood sugar nice and stable. And then for protein, I'm doing more pea rice protein.
Okay.
Because it's just clean. It doesn't have allergy. It's not dairy and
very low allergen. Yeah.
I'll do 2 scoops of pea rice protein, and then I'll put in frozen berries like boysenberry. Oh, I love it. And then chia seeds, like a scoop of chia seeds, because that's got lots of fiber and it's really good. And then water, and then I blend it up and drink it with a couple ice cubes.
All right.
Plus my vitamins, and then I'm ready.
I have a similar breakfast. Yeah.
What do you have?
So I do chia and flax. I do flax for a little bit of the phytoestrogen boost. I sometimes do coconut milk. Sometimes I'll do a little piece of avocado in my shake.
Oh, yeah.
I do the frozen berries. I love berries. I think they're like the women's best fruit. Low glycemic, but so many phytochemicals still. And I usually do water as my base.
Yeah.
And I really vary my protein powders. Sometimes it's pea based. Sometimes it's I've been using like collagen peptides. That's really clean as long as it comes from a clean source. In fact, interestingly enough, I think I don't know, New Zealand is sort of like a big area for sourcing of whey. I don't really use whey myself. But I think, I'm not sure if it's South America or New Zealand, but the collagen peptides, it has no sweetener, no stevia,
Oh, okay. I'll have to look that up because I have never heard of collagen peptides, but
Vital Proteins and Dave Asprey, the Bulletproof store, they have it, collagen peptides. So that is actually animal-based, but that's coming from, like a clean, grass-fed source. Supposed to be really good for hair, skin, nails. I don't know yet. I'm not one to just latch on to these claims. I like to check things out myself. So we're kind of checking it out now. That's about it. I like the chia as well.
Yeah, chia's great.
Just making sure that you get that little bit of fat in there and protein and the berries. It's a really good breakfast, I find.
You're ready to go.
Yeah. All right, awesome. Thank you so much for meeting with us. I'm just trying to, now that I've got you, I want to make sure that I've got all.
No, we can do it again. We can do this again. Just whatever questions you have, and then I'll have you over on Doctor on a Mission.
Awesome.
Okay? We'll interview